Oh hell, I was going to change my hat. I like to make videos and I change the hat so that when you're picking from videos, you can sort of see that they're different. So I changed my shirt and my hat and my sweater. Um, okay, I haven't used this hat in a long time. Okay, this is my Dakota hat. This was one that I used to wear to the bar a lot because it was just kind of a black hat goes very well with a lot of clothes. Black goes very well, and it seemed to fit my head very well. I liked my look in this. But if you go to business school, quite often they will talk about um, having different colored hats when you're a businessman. So you might have a blue hat, and that's about being one kind of intelligence. And a yellow hat might be a different kind of intelligence. Maybe a human resources person would be yellow, and blue would be a scientist, Mr. Spock in Star Trek. Whereas blue. You might have red, and it's security. So it's something to do with, well, anything to do with security, you wear a red hat or red shirt. Purple, you're trying to think of, I'm thinking of ethics. Okay, it's just a color that comes up, and purple is like kind of religious Christ consciousness. It's something bigger than you, so I'm going to call it like ethics because it's about keeping you from getting into trouble by, whatever. So you got all these different colors, and white might be someone who's in charge of sports and entertainment, white hat. And you got all these people. You could have a whole team sitting around a huge board table wearing different colored hats, and anytime that they were going to interject, they had to play the part of whatever color they were wearing. Unless you went and stole someone's hat and you said, I'm wearing blue, but I need the white hat because I'm going to say a white hat thing. But if you're a single businessman, you're a proprietor, you work by yourself, then you've got your whole cabinet full of hats, as I do, and you put different hats on to look at things different ways. And traditionally in business school, the black hat is the critic. The black hat is the person to say, okay, I've listened to all of the rest of you. Now it's my turn to go and look at everything with a cold 1,000-yard stare, like I'm Clint Eastwood and I've got a 44 Magnum by my side. I'm a police inspector. And my job is to see if you're lying and if you're doing anything criminal. And when you're a businessman wearing a black hat, it's not quite the same thing, but you're looking everything as if you were a police inspector. You're looking for holes in people's theories, looking for holes in what they've said. Because you're always checking the facts, and these are the facts that you've been presented with, and your job as the police officer is to take just the facts, and if there's other stuff, well, tell me it again, cut out the crap. And then I'm going to make notes, and then I'm going to go home, and, in the olden days in the 1970s, they would go to the policeman's bar, and they would sit there, and they would drink. And there'd be other cops there that they might talk to, or they might just sit and mope by themselves. But really, it was like you could see the wheels spinning around in their heads. Because they would be going over all this stuff in their mind. I mean, being a cop is like, it's a career. It's like, when they're off duty, they're still, once a cop, always a cop, is what they used to say in the movies, right? So that's what it's like when you're a black hat. You're always looking to see if there's something wrong in what somebody else has told you wearing a different hat. Because in the end, your job is to prevent major malfunctions. So if you think of NASA, the space agency, if they had black hats that somehow figured out that on the Challenger disaster that the O-rings were going to be problematic because in the cold, they were going to get brittle and they weren't going to work properly. You were going to lose your seal, and you were going to have some release of gas that was going to cause an explosion, and you're going to lose your whole thing. Then you're kind of the safety man, but you have to know everybody else's story inside and out. You have to know all these things, because you're the one. I mean, after the fact, after the thing has been a disaster, well, you can go back and try and learn from past mistakes. But when you get really good, you start looking ahead of time and you say, okay, well, this is what he's told me, and this could be an issue, or this could be an issue. So you're always looking for issues. You're looking with a critical eye on what everyone said, and you're looking to see where their argument is weak, and where it's weak, and the weakest chain is where something's going to break, and your whole organization's going to go down the toilet. Okay, next topic. Jordan Peterson, who is everyone's, either love him, hate him, or if you're like me, sometimes he says something interesting, and other times it's like, okay, that's interesting, but I don't want to go along with you. I hate agreeing with everyone. If I agree with you, it's usually because I'm lazy and I don't have time to think of something wrong, or I just don't want to get into a fuzzball with you. But that's just the way I am. I don't want to automatically agree with you. I don't want to be I don't want to be that one. Okay, so with Jordan Peterson today on Instagram, there was a video, and it was him talking about people who were like university professors, and university professors who were criticizing capitalism. So Jordan Peterson was saying, sure, there are some bad capitalists, but and he was going on and saying the reason why he works with business schools. He said, well, you're wrong. Most business people are not evil. And then he went on to talk about how, some business people are incredibly wealthy, and the academics who are compared to, the working class people pumping gas and flipping burgers, make a whole shitload of money. But when the academic people, the professors, compare themselves to, owners of things, they think they're getting screwed. So he accuses the academics of being communist, Marxist, and socialist. And he thinks they're wrong in this little clip of the video. So the reason why it's wrong, Dr. Peterson, is because, well, the people who own everything, it's not just their work. They get the benefit of all the other people that are working for their companies. All that brain power, and they get more benefit from it than anybody else. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. Because it's gone to such an extreme where so few people, under 10 people own as much as whatever percentages it is of the rest of the world. It's so unbalanced. It's so unfair. And then you get, people being born into these families that already own so much. Accident of birth, and, then it's not fair. And, people like Jordan Peterson might say, well, we've tried the other systems, and capitalism is the best that we've come up with so far. Well, Russian communism was a disaster, yes. And it's basically the same thing as American capitalism. In Russia, 1% of the people, the Communist Party, had the benefits, and all the other people were just like in capitalist America. Some people say worse, but they fought the Americans, in the Cold War. So whatever they had, they put up a good fight. But in the end, if you look at the way things are anyway, the capitalist model is not working for me, and that is why, personally, I'm cutting to the shit of it all. It doesn't work for me. And the people that I look after, who in my last job were people in nursing homes, capitalism doesn't work for them either. So those are the people who are the most helpless people in society. Capitalism doesn't work for them. And am I the most helpless person? I'm a helping kind of person, and I was not looked after enough so that I could even afford to live in this backwater city that I live in, because the prices are so high. So it doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for the people I look after. It only works for those who profit off over others. Now, where am I going with all this? Well, it doesn't. It works for you, Jordan Peterson, and it works for the people who own the businesses and own everything, and it's going to keep working for them. But I'm going to keep throwing monkey wrenches into it because it doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for people that I look after. And saying it's the best thing we've got, it doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. If you're not helping the people who are most helpless in your society, then you're, again, Agenda 21. You want to kill them off. That's very cold. And if you're saying that's intelligent, I'm saying your intelligence is at the expense of your humanity. And if you don't have any humanity, then I'm looking at you, and I'm saying I'm looking at Joseph Stalin or Joseph Mengele. I'm looking at a monster. And that's what you're defending. Monsters. But they provide all these services that humans need. Business people. Monsters. The excesses of capitalism have been talked about since the beginning. And, government regulation was one idea, breaking up the monopolies of Standard Oil and John D. Rockefeller. And yet if you look, and I looked at the diagram that Google called up, and, Standard Oil was broken up by the antitrust acts of the government, the U.S. government, into a whole pile of little companies. And then over the decades, lo and behold, those companies all merged back together again. So they're not back to one Standard Oil, but there's not very many big oil companies. And if you look at the graph, it was all Standard Oil, busted up, and they have all merged back together again. So a very small number of them, and you wonder why the price of gas keeps going up at the same time? It's because it's all monopolied. That's corrupt. That's corrupt. And all the teeth have been taken out of the Antitrust Act. Because you can't trust politicians because they're all bought off by money. Just look into Canada's Justin Trudeau. $500,000 spent on food and booze for a few trips. Him and his cronies. Paid for by the taxpayers of Canada. Justin Trudeau. Snowboard instructor. Drama teacher. Son of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who told Western Canadians he gave them all the one-finger salute. Who did I vote for in the last election? I voted for Justin Trudeau because I hated the previous guy, Stephen Harper, the Conservative. What to do? Well, this is the problem, is that they control all your choices. In Canada, you have basically 4 choices. You've got Conservative, Liberal, New Democratic, which is a democratic socialist party, and the Green Party, which is a very tiny party. So basically what happens, it flip-swaps between the Conservatives and the Liberals, and what businesses do is they back both sides, they back both candidates, so that when somebody gets in, the corporate agenda gets carried out. And once in a blue moon, when the democratic socialists get in, they're a bunch of teachers. And it's true, they don't know business. And even though government shouldn't be run like business, teachers are incredibly stupid people. They have no original thinking. That's why they're teachers. So they repeat things that they've been told to teach to other people, but they never create anything new. And so they take the same stupid things that they picked up along the way, and they try and implement them, and they don't work. And they never change because they're stupid. Teachers are among the stupidest people because they got it easy. They work less than everybody else except for firemen. And everyone knows, they get all the summers off, and they get every Christmas break and Easter break off, and PD days, and snow days. They get all this time off, and they're done by 3:30 in the afternoon. And then they get huge pensions. So they got it easy, and they say, we deal with your children, and they always say you're a babysitter. But it's not great. It's not creative. They're not coming up with anything new. So, it's the same tired thing, and that's why I won't vote for them. Their biggest problem, that it's staring them straight in the face, is that when they get into power, they want to spend a lot of money. Because things need to get done, and you got to spend money. So what they do is they go into debt. And they borrow and borrow from banks. Because they're too stupid to figure out that if you're the government, you can be your own bank. And you can lend yourself money for 0 interest. If you have to use money. But they're too stupid. So they're sucked in by, that's what the liberal and conservative agenda is to borrow money from commercial banks at interest. And usually what they do is they give it directly to corporations. Justin Trudeau forgave billions of dollars of debt to General Motors, and billions forgiven debt that was owed by General Motors, and then General Motors closed their plant in Oshawa, Ontario. Walked away with billions of dollars and then they say, well, the Canadian taxpayer is on the hook for it, all this debt. But it's been a direct monetary transfer from the government, which is supposed to represent the people, and it's a gift to corporations. It's so corrupt. It's criminal syndicates. The politicians work for criminals, the capitalists. So it's mafia. Our world is run by professional mafiosa. The corporations and the politicians. And all the rest of us are usually too busy to sit down and figure out what the hell is going on. Why is the world so bad? It's because you have got mafia running the world. Who are the kingpins of the mafia? Usually the people that are the owners, they're not necessarily smart, but what they do have is money, and they have a knack for finding talent. So they get the smartest, most talented people to run their businesses for them. And how do they measure it? Profit. Bottom line. And what does that do? Keeps your profits up. What does it do for the people? Puts the prices up. Makes things tough for people who are working. Oh, the last party in Canada is the Green Party, which is all about environmentalism. They've never been in power in Canada. And what problems do you have with the Green Party? Well, they want to put the prices of things that we consume up. And we cannot afford things because the prices are so high. But they want to put higher taxes, carbon taxes on gas, recycling taxes on things, just tax, put the prices up because they're stupid. They think, well, it's just common economics. You put the price of things up and people will use less. But the people need this stuff. This is not stuff that's, like, I'm not going to go on a trip this summer. Well, maybe that's what happens, but, I got to go to my work and I have to go there. Well, then they want to go and billions and billions of dollars for public transit. And that's happening in the province of Ontario now. There's been billions and billions on more public transit. And who's the first one sniffing around that wants the money? The Chinese engineering firms. So it's money that's going to go from the Canadian taxpayer to employ Chinese people. out of the country. The money's gone out of the country, and even though we've got all kinds of universities that create all kinds of engineers, we're not going to use Canadian engineers. We're going to use Chinese ones. So the money's gone out of the country until the Chinese come and buy up property in Canada, which what they do. And then, the poor Canadians can't afford to live in their own country, so they've sold their whole country down the toilet. And this is what happens. It's very scary to live on planet Earth because everybody that's here is out for themselves. On planet Draconis, where all the reptilians live, well, it's the same way. Welcome to Draconis, Earthlings. I'm Pindar, the reptilian Draco.